In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracies episodes. And today we discuss, are these some of the best evidenced alien abductions?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello my friend once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well, and will you say hi to our audience?
Yeah, I'll say hi to the audience. Hello, audience. How are you? Hope you're keeping safe and well, as Tony has said. Look, I'd like to share with you something that Dr. Isaiah Henry Madatamba has said. And I think you should listen to this because listen, antelopes are not foolish for hiding in shadows. Shadows are not wise for hiding antelopes. Come on, man. Come on. Wow. Amazing.
What the heck does that mean? Please. This guy's not for real. He's making up stuff. Come
What
on.
are you talking about? This is brilliant.
Explain why it's brilliant, please.
I will. What I've decided to do henceforth is at some point during the show, I will, like I have been doing, you will see for yourself. Because I think when it comes to you, a demonstration is best rather than explanation.
Okay.
By the way, I've been sending you screenshots of people absolutely loving Dr. Isaiah Henry's aphorisms. I've actually sent you several screenshots.
I'm sure I haven't seen those.
What? I'll send them again. I know where they came from.
Okay, indeed. No, actually, following up from what Tayo is just saying there, please continue to engage with us on our Facebook group, the TNT Talkers, where you'll find both of us on there that you can directly chat with us and converse and get answers for any question you pose pretty much very, very quickly, if not immediately. But if Facebook is not your platform of choice, then please continue to like, comment, and even subscribe on whatever platform you happen to be consuming our content on. We will get back to you if you do comment, although not straight away, of course, but please continue to do so. We need your support and we enjoy your support. So thank you for that. Right. Moving on to today's show, and it's another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes. And today we're going to discuss, well, some examples of alien abductions. Are these the best evidenced, say that right? Mm-hmm. Alien abductions. And we're going to talk around a few of those. So, Tayo, do you want to kick this off, or would you like me to, seeing as it was one of my topics?
Well, I think it's one of yours, so why don't you explain to the audience why we are talking about aliens again?
Alien abduction, not again. It's always a popular topic because
amongst
there's always
some people,
question marks. No, come on.
Amongst tired type of people, it's like, oh, come on, man. Why? Anyway, anything to keep Tony happy. Let's do this thing.
Okay. Now, the thing is, we've obviously had reports of weird sightings in the sky, which is UFOs, and now commonly referred to as UAP, which is the new buzzword for UFOs. But the next stage on from that is where people have reported being abducted by actual aliens. Now, as Tayo has actually said, that seems a bit far-fetched, but there's some examples of these cases which are too quirky and strange to just dismiss as saying these people are weird. And we have a number that I want to cover. And I don't want to tread on Tayo's shoes because he hasn't got as many as me. So I'd rather him explain his one in case it's on my list rather than the other way round. So do you want to explain your case, and then we see whether we can discuss, you know, what's the chance of it actually being true, or can it be explained by more worldly means?
Well, as for an explanation by more worldly means, I'd say no, because I've been thinking about this for quite a long time. It's a case I came across a few years ago, and it's the only one that stands out for me as worth talking about. So, all this time, I have come across other cases of so called alien abductions, but I've never taken any of them seriously. Some have raised the question in my mind as to what actually happened. I mean, I don't assign it down to aliens. I believe you and I may have spoken about one before, but I'm not absolutely certain. And I'm expecting you to bring it up anyway because it's quite famous. But this particular one, which strangely, when I was doing the research for this, what amazed me is that not that many people seem to be talking about it, and it seems to be the best evidenced one. Anyway, I don't know about, okay, maybe it's not the best evidenced one, but it's there's a reason for it, and it's, I don't know how to pronounce this now. It's, the name of the town is Pascagoula, I believe.
Okay.
Do you know it,
I've heard
Pascagoula?
of this one. Yes, yes.
All right. So this Pascagoula is a town in Mississippi, I believe. Oh no, I don't know if it is in Mississippi. It's
Yeah, it
on
is
the Mississippi River.
No, it is
It's
along
on the
there,
Mississippi
yes.
River.
Yep.
I don't know if it's in Mississippi. And this took place, I believe, in 1973,
Okay.
because the 50th anniversary, the 50th year anniversary was what, last year? Just about last year, because now I don't know if your audiences are aware, we're recording this on the 31st of December. So in a few hours it'll be 2 years ago. Can you imagine? Isn't that weird? Anyway, this happened on the evening of October the 11th, 1973, whilst two men were Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were 42-year-old Charles Hickson and 19-year-old Calvin Parker claimed they were fishing. Now, there's no suggestion that these people were related, and I'm racking my brains to try to understand why I would be with, as a 19-year-old, I would be with a 42-year-old out in a remote-ish area, and I can't come up with anything
Well,
that isn't
let's be
sexually
honest,
inappropriate.
no. It can't be that. I mean, there's many cases where you've got someone who's more experienced fisherman, a younger person wanted to learn, and they're happy to take them out and show them what's what. And that's how things occur. It didn't
But
have
at
to be
night?
sexually related. Well, it depends on when the best fish could be captured, because fish are not stupid. They don't come out very much, certainly to the surface during the day, because they know that predators lurk during the day. So they tend to come closer to the surface of the water in the evening and night time. Hence why we have a thing called night fishing, because there's more success to catch fish overnight. And this could be just an innocent case of that, where two men, a common interest, which is fishing, the younger wanting to learn from the senior member, and so forth. They go out together in the evening. Nothing strange about that whatsoever.
Maybe I'm just a sensitive type. It gives me ick, but never mind. It's not important to the story. The men claim, this is their claim, that they heard a whirring or buzzing noise accompanied by flashing blue lights. Usually that's people smoking pot being caught by the police, but apparently not in this case. Apparently in this case, this was an oval-shaped craft approximately 30 to 40 feet across, 8 to 10 feet high, descending nearby. Three creatures emerged, levitated these two individuals into their craft, and subjected them to examinations. Which again goes back to, what were you two doing out there in the first place? However, all this is, well, that's your usual sort of, abductee thing. You're on a lonely road, it's night, no one's about, something shows up, allegedly, mysteriously you enter some craft, and then horrible things happen to you, and then, that's it. Here's where I started getting interested in it. The two individuals first tried to report this incident to the Air Force. And the Air Force said, we don't know what you're talking about, we don't do that sort of thing. Go to your local police department, which is the sheriff's department, So the judge, it is Mississippi, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, where the chief, I don't know if it was the chief detective or just the police chief, was very skeptical of their account, questioned them, and something just went off in the background there.
Yeah, it was my phone, sorry.
And questioned them and didn't believe a word of what they said. However, this is where it gets really interesting, folks. The deputies left the device recording a secret recording device. They left a recording, right?
Unknown to the two men.
Unknown to the two men. And they expected to hear the two men say, we've got the police, we've got them running around in circles, how clever we are. Instead of which, they got the two men telling one another how frightened they were and how worried they were, and just generally trying to figure out what happened and why us.
Yeah, they didn't drop the act.
No.
Secretly being recorded, unaware that the tape was there.
Exactly. And that's why I became interested in the case, because if there's no suggestion, as there is no suggestion that the police were in on the act, then what happens that two men tried to get in touch with the Air Force, were told to go to the police, went to the police as instructed by the airport. I'll take that as an instruction. If you're looking for help, and you call the hospital and say, hey, I need help quickly, and they say, well, do this instead, I would do it because I'm in that kind of state of anxiety. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so for me, it adds a certain extra credibility. They didn't wait a couple of days and then decide later, you know what, we'll just talk to someone. No, they went ahead as instructed, and they don't know the police. They didn't set out. If they had gone directly to the police, I'd have said, but they didn't. So it wasn't something worked out ahead of time with police, with sheriff's department deputies, as they call them in America. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Would you have known back in 1973, when all this was very unusual? It's less uncommon now. But in 1973, this is all pretty unusual, UFOs and abductions and things like that. Would you have, without TV and all that, would you have thought about people secretly recording you? I mean, nowadays I take it as standard.
Yeah.
But I don't believe for a second that in 1973 anyone would have thought of that, because I wouldn't have. I mean, I was only a teenager at that point, but still.
But
yes?
The technology there wasn't as covert
ubiquitous
as it is now. Yeah.
Covert?
Well, so you couldn't hide it because they had big units to record. You didn't have little recording devices that you can hide.
So James Bond type things
that technology wasn't available to most people, including the police department. So for them to put a recorder, it must have been in a position that the two men were just not aware of.
Witness room, I think, probably a witness room.
Yeah, exactly. And
but I just think ordinary people, and these two individuals, they don't sound like individuals who would have been aware. Anyway, this so far it's still pretty standard. So this is nice. I like this, that there was this secret recording which seemed to back up that the men were genuinely frightened and something had genuinely happened to them. And then it all gets kind of murky, except years later there was a gentleman called, I think he's still alive, a gentleman called Dr. Philip Mantle, who investigated. He was investigating this incident, and by that time, unfortunately, we had lost. Who had we lost? We had lost
Charles Hickson.
Charles Hickson, who passed away the older gentleman. He passed away in 2011 at the age of 80. So not a bad innings. And he got a hold of the younger chap, Calvin Parker, and unfortunately, Parker had lost his cuttings and photographs and what's not in the floods. I believe Hurricane Katrina. But being able to, I mean, being having told Dr. Mantle, is it Doctor? I said yes, Doctor, whatever is it, Philip Mantle about it. Dr. Mantle was actually able to track down quite a lot of the materials, and one of the first and one of the most interesting, which I'm going to share with you now, so that you can share it with. I don't know if we can share it actually. Yeah, we'll share it on TNT Talkers because it's a picture,
Okay, we can
and it's a
still do it.
picture.
We can share it. We can.
What
There's
makes this
ways of doing
interesting?
it.
What makes this interesting is that we weren't aware. People were making fun of them and saying there was no evidence of the interrogation, of the alleged interrogation.
By the
Only,
sheriff's office.
sorry,
By the
no, no, no,
sheriff's office.
of the by the alleged aliens.
Oh, okay.
So people were like, yeah, well, there really ought to be pictures and whatnot. Well, actually, I've just sent to you. There is.
Yeah.
And they're in the, so I'm not selling this guy's book, obviously. I'm not the author. I'm not selling his book, so the book is called, for those who are interested, The Pascagoula Abduction. Is it? No, it's not. Something else. The
It,
book is
there was a
called,
series called Files of the Unexplained, which covered this on Netflix
no,
because it was a
this is a
weird
book,
one.
and
Yeah.
it's called Beyond Reasonable Doubt, The Pascagoula Alien Abduction, published in September 2023 by Dr. Philip Mantel. And this picture is in there along with attribution. So where did it come from, sources, and everything. So anybody who's like, I need to investigate that, help yourself. It's not just
Yeah.
TNT Talk Show saying it. So look, that's just quite. I don't want to take up all the time. Quite a lot of supporting evidence, a surprising amount of evidence, and apparently I wasn't aware until I started looking into it recently. There were our witnesses who saw separate things,
Yeah.
and I've
Maria
got
Blair.
recordings. Sorry.
Maria Blair was another witness who gave a testimony that corroborated the men's story.
Yeah. So this is a really, I mean, I don't know what the hell happened, but it's not something that you can simply turn your back on and say nothing happened.
Yeah. Just for the benefit of our listeners, obviously, who can't see this image that Tayo has kindly shared, it shows a picture of Calvin Parker's foot, of which there was a puncture wound on the just above the arch of the foot, and it's enlarged and you can see it. Apparently it wasn't just Calvin Parker's foot that had this puncture wound. Charles Hickson also had a similar puncture wound, but in the arm. So the picture we don't have for Charles Hickson, but we do have the one for Calvin Parker. So where the other picture has ended up, we don't know, but there were puncture wounds, which both men separately, whilst being interviewed, said had happened to them. And the corresponding evidence is there were images captured by the sheriffs in 73 that showed these puncture wounds allegedly by the captors or aliens who abducted these two men. So this is a really interesting story, and certainly one of the most not truthful. We don't know if it's truthful or not, because it could still be a hoax. It could still be, information that's, been mixed up perhaps, but it's certainly compelling because there is physical evidence of some sort of wound. Obviously, naysayers may say, well, that could have happened anywhere. He could have got puncture wound just while fishing, and the same for Charles Hickson. But it just strange where they both reported that they were examined by the aliens and used pincer-like implements which caused the wounds in the foot and the arm, and they obviously had that verified by photos taken by the sheriff's office. You've shared something else with me.
Well, there's the recording of the secret recording. So that's actually an audio from the actual night. And I find that fascinating to hear the two men speaking for themselves and not somebody saying, so you actually listen to them speaking to each other, and then you can make up your own mind about whether that sounded fake or not. So I mean, that's just fantastic because that enables you to do your own.
We'll definitely share that in the blurb of this episode once it goes out.
Yeah, so there's all that. And so what I did was I went to my newfound friend, AI. I've made friends with AI now because although there are still issues, I am training the AI, and it is now becoming so anti-woke that I believe this. I told you about this the other day, that I think it's turning a little misogynist, which is like, whoa, dude, that's not what I meant. But yeah, so I turned to my new friend. I said, look, ask me questions that a skeptic would ask, because I don't think I'm very good at being skeptical, because I just have a blanket skepticism about everything. But it's blanket. It's I don't trust you. Do you understand? But there's no particular reason why I don't trust you. It's just the Nigerian thing. I don't trust you. So, but particularly, so how about some questions? Why did Charles Hickson refuse to take a polygraph exam?
He refused.
He did refuse to take a polygraph exam.
Okay, why?
Well, he refused to take a polygraph exam from a person he didn't know, from an out-of-state person, but he took one supplied by the sheriff's department.
Interesting.
So he might have been one of those people who doesn't trust the city types, if you know what I mean. I think it's quite an American thing that you don't trust people who aren't from, like,
from out of town.
Yeah, from out of town. And just by the way, I myself would never take a lie detector, a polygraph. The advice on the internet is never take a polygraph.
Why?
Because if you pass, it doesn't matter. It only registers if you fail, and there could be a false. You could fail by accident, and that was be on your record. So don't ever. There's no benefit. You don't. No one has ever passed a polygraph, and then the police have thought, okay, drop the case. He's passed. No.
It makes no odds.
Sorry, it makes no odds. So you're only putting yourself in jeopardy without any possible advantage to it. Why would you do it?
Interesting. Never heard that view before, but okay.
So I follow someone on YouTube who's a lawyer and gives all this kind of advice. Okay. How do you explain, and other people, by the way, how do you explain the discrepancies in Hickson's story? So one of the big skeptics who's looked into this is a guy called Philip J. Klass. Now, Klass spelled Klass, not C.
Yeah.
So you know,
skeptic, yeah.
So no skeptic. Now, he's the kind of skeptic I don't like. I like people who are skeptical because they're open-minded and fair. They don't come at it with this predetermined outcome.
He already has a predetermined outcome.
So why are you talking to the guy? There's nothing you can say. Now, as you know, I'm very skeptical about aliens, but I am willing to listen to the evidence, and I'll take the evidence on its own merit.
Face value, indeed.
I mean, that's why I'm saying this is the best case, because I can't poo-poo this case.
Yeah.
Right?
You see, yeah. I mean, he's trying to use pure logic and science, which, if we use, Occam's razor, the least outlandish reason for something is generally the truthful one. So he comes at it at that point of view. But it doesn't mean, Occam's razor doesn't mean every weird explanation is unlikely to be true. It just says the majority. So there can be some that sound fantastical from the outset, which is what this one does. But because of the evidence, and especially physical evidence of the puncture wounds, you have to sort of think, well, how could this be explained using scientific known methods? And
Puncture
it's very
wounds
difficult to debunk.
And eyewitnesses, unrelated to the original two men.
Indeed.
That is
eyewitness testimonies, by and large, aren't very reliable. They really are not.
But this was this was intercepted at reasonably close enough time to the incident.
Yes.
When you and I spoke about the babushka lady in the JFK assassination,
Yeah.
we spoke about somebody showing up with evidence several years later.
Yeah, that's
And straight away, you and I were
should be
both,
dismissed,
no, forget it, you know. But when it's close to the incident, within a few days, that's different.
Indeed.
So anyway, anyway. So I think on the whole, yes, there are. I mean, look, they can't prove. I mean, they're both dead now, so they couldn't ever prove that they were abducted. But no one could prove that they weren't, if you see what I mean.
It's certainly a strange case, and certainly one which has a lot of question marks towards it, really, because it's a strange one. It is their testimony, and this is the problem with a lot of these abductee reports. It is generally just the individual's account. Most of the time there is very little evidence to back it up, other than missing time, perhaps. There isn't any physical leftover, or in this example, look, the puncture wounds are interesting. At least there's a physical manifestation there that presents a question mark. A lot of the others tend to be more, the person recounting a story themselves, which, again, as we've already touched on, could be false in some way, or they could be confused, etc., etc. But this one is slightly different, where you've got some evidence, which is a strange one. I mean,
anyway, I'd like to say this before I let this go. There is now a marker, a physical marker on the bridge, I believe it was, or something, near the encounter site, what's called the encounter site in Pascagoula. And it was placed there in June of 2019. And it is dubbed, or I think it's called, the closest encounter. The marker of the closest encounter.
Yeah.
And I like that idea of all the hundreds of thousands of stories, this one is, and I think to me it is different. There's another one which I've forgotten about it, but I'm sure you're going to talk about it, where witnesses saw people going up into the sky. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Travis Perkins.
There we go.
Yeah,
but this to me
that's the one I was going to talk about next.
Yeah, you handle like us, but this to me is my. If you said to me, Tyler, any evidence, this is what I'd point to. This incident.
It's a very, very good account, because there was physical wounds affected.
And it was early in the cycle, 1973.
Yeah,
we hadn't begun all this UFO thing.
People were polluted and biased with their analyses. But I mean, let me give you some examples. I mean, in America, for instance, at the moment, where they are the country that purport to have the most abductees, there's
counterintuitive. Let's put it that way.
Well,
you flying towards Earth in your spaceship, and you start watching American TV. I really don't think A, you'd want to visit Earth after that, and B, if you did, I think you'd probably know who you should avoid. But apparently not. No, they go straight to America and start proctoring people.
Indeed. I mean, the latest research is pointing at 3.7 million Americans have reported they've had an alien abduction. That's
3.7 million.
3.7 million. That is a huge number. Now, there are ways of dismissing the vast majority of these, because what people mistake with an alien abduction is called sleep paralysis syndrome. Okay? Now, here's what happens in sleep paralysis. When you experience this, and most people have this when they're lying on their backs in bed. You get a sense, it's a part of your deep sleep cycle, and it only happens when you're lying on your back. You have a sense of being awake, but you're not dreaming. That's what you think. And you have a realistic perception of the environment around you. So you're lying there and you're looking around. One of them is the inability to move. So you feel straight away slightly concerned. You can't move your body. So you get this feeling of fear and dread. And you sometimes sense, or feel you sense, the presence of someone in the room. This is all to do with this sleep paralysis symptoms. And also at the same time, as you're lying on your back, you get a slight pressure on your chest. So in turn, difficulty breathing, which you, at that point in time, because you're in this sleep state, can let your mind wander and believe you are being abducted. And certain encounters happen. And it's also another issue called temporal lobe sensitivity, where some people's brains are more vulnerable to influence from low-level magnetic frequencies. And these low-level magnetic frequencies can come from waves which emitted from devices in the home. How many people sleep with a phone in their room, for instance? And these people, therefore, are more sensitive to these waves and weren't aware of it, which then further exacerbate this sleep paralysis syndrome. So I'm not saying this is all people, clearly not, but that vast number of 3.7 million who believe they've been abducted may have experienced this sleep paralysis syndrome.
Well, I find that a bit fantastical because I've experienced sleep paralysis on several occasions. In fact, at one point in my life, it became unreasonably common. I found, by the way, if anybody wants to take this advice, I found a way of snapping out of it really, really quickly, which is hold your breath.
Interesting.
On purpose. Just you can't move. Your first instinct is I can't move. Oh my! Then you just okay. Hold your breath, and you just snap out of it because you just take back control of your body instantly.
Interesting. Very good. Because while you're in that state, you do feel vulnerable. And you do look around and think, well, you think you look around and is there someone in the room just because the room is dark, bit of pareidolia going ahead. And your brain is wandering because it can't move. So it goes into a weird, not spasm, but certainly a weird situation where you don't feel comfortable. And that can garner different thoughts. Anyway.
No, I'm always waiting for the end of the I'm always waiting for the end of the road. So I usually wake up thinking, oh my God, this is it. All right, bye guys. And then
and then you realize it's just sleep paralysis.
Goodbye, thanks for all the fish. To quote a famous book.
Okay, let's move on with another one. So the conclusion of that one is pretty profound, actually. There's really not many answers to that first story. The next one is a very, very famous one, is an abduction of Travis Walton. And this was in 1975. This one garnered a lot of interest. There was a film made about it. Although Travis Walton himself helped make the film, but he didn't actually like the film because it wasn't a true recollection of what he went through. They made the film more, if I can use the term, Hollywood. And
they're trying to sell tickets, aren't they?
Yeah, they were, and made the film. I mean, it's well worth watching. If you haven't watched it, you can find it probably on Netflix or Prime or equivalent, where you can probably catch the film. And it does show quite a harrowing report of what actually happened. And the strange thing about this is that this was witnessed by his co-workers. Yeah. There was, just to give a summary of it, on November the 5th, 1975, Travis Walton was 22 at the time, and he was working, and they were in a car with his fellow workers, a truck really. There were 6 of them there. And they were driving along the forest, and they saw a weird light in the forest. And everyone was in the truck was quite afraid. And Travis, being quite young and a bit naive, thought, no, I'm going to go and see what it is. So
One other thing.
Go on.
He was young, he was naive, and he was something else. He was white.
A UFO he was white, UFO enthusiast.
No, he was white.
But he was white.
Just leave it with that. He was white.
Okay, I know
All
you're
black
saying because if
people-
it had been black people would run the other way.
All
Yes.
black people would have been long gone, dude.
Yeah, and so
In
he
fact, I'd have
ran.
gotten out of the truck. I'd have gotten out of the truck and started walking away from the damn thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
okay.
didn't. He didn't. He actually, the truck stopped and he got out, and the guys were shouting at him, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" But he approached this light thing, which they thought, what was it? It looked like some craft. And as he approached, he was struck by a blue light, which was witnessed by his co-workers, and they were so afraid. They did what Tayo suggested. They fled the scene and left him there because he was almost caught in this light and was unable to move, paralyzed by it. And he disappeared. And the truck, the guys had issues saying they should have gone back for him, what have you. But they didn't. They drove away at speed because they were absolutely petrified at what happened. Now, they were all interviewed because they had to report that Travis had gone missing. Obviously, the police were involved, thinking that these 5 guys who were left had somehow murdered their colleague.
Yeah.
And so they were under suspicion of murder because they couldn't find his body, didn't know, where they'd buried him, for instance. And then spectacularly, 5 days later, Travis was wandering down a highway near the vicinity, bemused, dazed, unaware of the missing time. And, he's still alive today.
I
And
just worked out why I know about him.
go on.
And we can tell the audience in case they want to find out. It's because we spoke about him in our missing 411 cases.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if the audience wants to go back, audience members want to, there's this called the Missing 411 about all sorts of interesting disappearances. It's in our backlog, which Tony will talk about at the end of the show. And yeah, that's why I suddenly realized, that's why I know about this case.
Yeah. This just as to recap what that is, the 411, we covered it at length on really missing cases. And if you search online for any of the platforms that host our show, you can find our back catalogue on there. And you can enjoy other episodes of this particular topic, plus more mysterious goings on. Not alien particularly. The 411 covers just mysteries. But what was intriguing about this is that Travis Walton came back.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry to interrupt again. What was interesting about this and why it suddenly clicked is that what makes a 411 case mysterious, not usually, but in a lot of the cases, why it's mysterious is that the area has been thoroughly searched by professionals.
Yeah.
And then the person shows up in that thoroughly searched area.
Which is really
that is one of the markers of a 411 case.
Yeah.
That you look professionals spend weeks searching in this particular area, never find the person, and then the person just shows up there again. And you're like, well, how?
Yeah.
Sorry for
and this was a
interruptions, but I
really
wanted to-
bizarre case because Travis went on to report that he was taken away, he was examined, and if you watch the film, I don't want to give too many things away, in the film he's portrayed as going through quite a traumatic experience. Although Travis himself, speaking on Joe Rogan, he appeared on Joe Rogan about the film, did say that he wasn't mistreated, not in the manner that the film depicts. So this tends to lead to the fact what these beings, if they can call them that, who captured him and examined him, were doing so out of curiosity, not necessarily malevolence. So they were maybe examining him, took him in, doing, try and understand more about our human biology perhaps, and then released him. So that was strange. But the fact that he came back is the thing that then released his 5 colleagues who later reunited with him and did say, we're sorry we left you, blah blah blah. But
Liars.
he wasn't too.
I'd have left him and said, yeah, you walked into
Well, they
towards
did
a light
accuse him
in
for
the
being
sky.
foolish. They never
So,
changed their view on
apologize.
it.
I don't want to go with you when whatever horrible things happened to you or didn't happen to you. That actually, his saying that nothing awful happened to him.
He was
kind of
probed and
lends
checked, but nothing
credence.
malevolent that he felt bad about.
To me, it lends credence. It's not trying to sensationalize it.
No.
So that lends credence to his account. Because if he was trying to sensationalize it, then, they did terrible things to me. They made me listen to Vogon poetry, that sort of thing. For those who get the
Indeed. I mean, that is a compelling one. Although there isn't any physical evidence, what is strange about this one is that it was witnessed by five of his work guys. And then he disappeared.
When they were interrogating those 5 men, did their responses, did they all gel, or were there inconsistencies? Were there things?
Yeah, there were consistencies through all
inconsistencies.
of them. No, consistencies through the story. I mean, obviously different points of view, because some saw him closer than the others, and one saw him go levitate as the blue light hit him. The others didn't see that, so they didn't report that. They were more concerned of getting away, adrenaline flowing, blah blah blah. So there were slight discrepancies in what they saw at the time, but they all concluded the same thing, that he was hit by this blue light. He looked frozen when this happened, even though they called out to him in fear for his safety, and then realizing he wasn't moving and they were petrified, they took the decision to get away from there in case it happened to them. And rightly so, because if you're seeing something which one of your colleagues is being, I don't know, experiencing and not responding to your shouts, and you don't know what's causing it, you would be perplexed and run for your life and be fearful. Travis was foolish at the time because he was just inquisitive, really. It was only as he approached the craft did he get this beam of light strike him, and then obviously, had you asked him, would you have done it, he probably would have said no. And in hindsight, I think he has said no, he wouldn't have approached it from what he knows now. But he did say, yes, he was examined on the craft, but it wasn't uncomfortable, yes, but not as any other examination would be. So so the story in the film, however, portrays him that he was captured, he was held up in some weird substance, tried to fight them off, which was not the case. So the film is based on the story, but obviously, like I said earlier,
it's Hollywood.
It's given the Hollywood.
They've got to make a
thing.
buck, so
they've got to make
use an Americanism.
So that one to me is really compelling, because we got witnesses there all corroborating what happened. Obviously, we've only got Travis's story himself.
I think I prefer it more for being a 411 than I do for being an alien abduction.
Yeah,
it is just a peculiar disappearance for me. It's a peculiar disappearance, because I'm still not convinced that we are being visited by aliens. I don't know what the hell is going on with this alien thing, to be honest. Ifs, whens, buts, and howsoevers. You can't quite dismiss it, and I can't quite accept it. So I'm in this horrible limbo where I'm not going to say there are no such things, but... And, okay, I was making fun when I said, he was white and he would have gone. And I don't know who's going to believe me, but I think Tony knows that I probably just tell it the way it really is going to be. I would be curious. I think I'd go. I'm pretty sure I would, because what's the point of not going? It's silly. I mean, you got to go. You might be feeling trepidation, which is common sense, but you've got to go.
You'd be afraid though, because
yes, you would be. But being brave is not being afraid.
No, it's
being brave is doing it anyway.
Acting anyway, absolutely.
So if I see something, I've been so curious that I've got to go.
I don't know, because
did I share that video I made of something that was in the sky, and I shared it with you? I sent it to you, correct?
Yeah, you did.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
I didn't run inside or anything. It was just, what is
Well, I
at that
think,
moment?
well, at that moment though, you evaluate whether this could actually give
No, I just wanted, if it was, I
danger.
wasn't going to be afraid. I was going to be, no, I got to, because what is, I really want to know what the hell is going on.
Indeed, we all do. We have got that
So if
curiosity
you run
element.
away, you will find out. That's
No, I
my
know.
point.
But the point is, there's an element to a lot of humans, the FFF, which is,
Fight or fail.
yeah, flee, fight, or freeze.
Ah,
Yeah, FFF. And we don't know what happens to us. Everybody's different when you encounter a situation of stress. Some people freeze, they become immobile. Some people flee, literally, they got to get away. But some people fight. They feel they need to fight. And this is why soldiers, sorry, we're digressing slightly here. This is why soldiers are a certain mentality, and the army want these people who, when they're under a stressful situation, all they want to do is fight. They like that, and that's what makes a good soldier. But for situations that we're talking about here, when you're seeing something that can threaten you in some way, you don't necessarily know how you're going to respond, because your heightened senses will kick in to protect you. Now, if you feel that the fear is too great, you may flee. If you feel if the fear sometimes paralyzes, which is the freeze bit, which is no good to anybody really. But the other one, well, it's
well,
not, is it?
well, you can't be spotted. I mean, okay, with the digressing, but very few predators see shapes. They see movement.
They do.
You freeze, and it hasn't spotted you. You might get away with it.
Yes,
because,
this is a trait.
so that's the freeze
indeed.
thing. You know,
Yeah.
that's what. So
Yeah.
you start jumping up and down, man. You just go, oh yeah, lunch.
Indeed.
So,
yes,
yeah.
lunch. Indeed. So it is beneficial when you're
is.
dealing with some
Can
threats.
be. Let's
Indeed.
put it that way.
Can be. Not all the time, but yeah.
Not
can
all
be.
the time.
But anyway, that aside, we don't know how we're going to behave if you see something. And in this case, Travis saw this craft, the light coming down.
curious.
They all saw it. Curiosity
Did they see
got
a
the better
light
with
or
it.
they see a craft? I think they saw a light.
They saw a light,
Yeah.
but the way it was behaving, it behaved like a craft. And that's why they associate
See, it could have
it.
been a helicopter, for example.
Yeah.
Could have been a helicopter. So you might have just go, oh, I want to see what's happening. Does somebody need help? Is it a rescue helicopter? So I can understand why. I mean, I was kidding earlier. If you don't actually see, and even if you do see a UFO, wouldn't you go, Tony? I mean,
I would look. I would certainly
I'd go.
look.
I
And
want to see,
and
and I know.
you'd
I really
still be
want to see.
hesitant, of course, because you think, "Oh, what's going on here?"
Could be a long trip,
Yeah,
You have to
indeed.
tell the wife I won't be back for a while, but that'll be my one condition. Gotta take me around to Northampton where I say to the whole trouble and strife. Sorry, man. I went with these guys. See,
I mean,
got you back.
The thing for me, alien abductions. Yes, there's some weird ones. I'm still, like you, a little bit apprehensive. I mean, obviously, there's been stories of implants.
I couldn't find
which-
anything on that.
I mean, implants is an interesting one because there have been people reporting that they've had implants put in. And there's what's his name now? There was a Roger Lear, that was it. He was a doctor and a pediatric surgeon who performed experiments on people who said they'd had bits inserted, and he removed physical items from the alleged abductee. Now, some skeptics again have Joe Nickel, an American skeptic and investigator. Again, he didn't see the implants, but he's poo-pooed it and said, no, these things are likely items which people could have got into their body using, natural things. And you could have got the implant from just stepping on something a few years ago, not noticing, and then having this surgeon pull it out. It looks a bit weird because scar tissue's now built around it. and you could then attribute that and make the link, oh, it must have come from an alien. So I can see his logic, but without examining the pieces, it's very difficult to make that call. But what is strange is, I mean, Roger Lear's subsequently died, but his associate Daryl Sims, of which Taya and I have actually met and interviewed briefly, he refused to hand over these bits that have been removed from people's bodies for further analysis, because his argument has been that they would lose it, and they have done, because he sent things to them in the past. So these subsequent implants that have been removed from people's bodies, he has the stash, hasn't shared them, which obviously makes it counterintuitive, because that would further corroborate the evidence to say, well, yeah, this is stuff that's been implanted into people. But his argument again has been said that he knows the truth, he doesn't need to tell other people whether they believe it or
that's
not.
not how that works. So yeah, he did send some stuff up. This Dr. Roger Leir, Leir, Leir. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Leir, yeah, he's passed away, unfortunately.
Oh, has he? He sent some of the implants to New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology.
Yeah.
And they found that the elements were composed of commonly found. Sorry, they found that the implants were composed of commonly found elements such as iron or aluminium. So
that doesn't
what,
mean...
but what they were doing in where they were found and how they got in there, it's just really weird. I just wish people would just be straightforward and just, it'd be great if people just told the truth and we could actually get to the bottom of things.
Thing is, I mean, even iron and aluminium, one of these implants was removed from a lady's nose.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. How did it get there?
Yeah, exactly.
These are things, I mean, no surgical, some of these are like without any scars.
I know.
So you put something into a person's body, how did they get in there? And people don't want to answer that bit of it. They just want to go, well, it's aluminium and it's iron. So yeah, but that's not
how did it get into the body? Yeah.
You still got to explain, why is it in tissue?
Yeah. Now, I want to touch on very quickly, as I'm mindful we're getting close to the top of the hour. This one here is the one for me that is the most compelling.
Oh.
And it doesn't actually involve abductees. So I'm digressing slightly, which is cattle mutilations.
Yeah, that's a big leap from alien abduction.
It is from alien abduction.
Right, although you want to say the innards and the blood.
Yeah, is missing.
That's been abducted, because where's the stuff? This is your Skywalker ranch, isn't it?
Yeah. The thing about cattle mutilations, which fascinates me, if not more so than the alien abductions, is that there is actual evidence here, and really, really strange evidence. So we have physical evidence of something happening to cattle, and some have been reported that the cattle has been lifted off the ground by some sort of craft and then dropped again. It's craft not making any sound, not helicopter sound, just silent. The cattle being lifted and then slowly deposited back, and the cattle, all sorts of cattle, sheep, horses, goats, pigs, bison, moose, lifted off the ground, then mutilated somehow, and then put back without surgery cuts, no blood, certain strategic parts missing, and there's no parts, no blood, no nothing. The blood has been completely removed. So, certain lymph nodes removed, genitals, rectum removed without blood being present. This is just completely odd, without incisions that are visible, that even our top surgeons cannot perform. Now that adds more credence to something absolutely incredible going on. So cattle mutilations, although it is a jump from abductions, is in a way is like, are the animals being abducted, worked on and replaced? It's a strange one. And humans, however, they haven't, or well, not that we know of, where humans have been taken away, they haven't had this extent of of surgery, so to speak. They've had some reports of implants, they've had reports of surgery, all sorts. I mean, there was one in particular which was really strange. I only heard about only recently, but I didn't bring it with me, which is foolish of me, apologies. Was of a report of a man who, again, was at night next to his girlfriend in bed. He thought he was taken. So what he noticed was that someone was coming in the door and he couldn't move. Now, granted, he admitted, could it be sleep paralysis? But he saw the door open, some being came in, took him away. So what he did, he thought, right, before I go to bed, I'm going to put the table up against the door. Okay? So, lo and behold, he was there. He could see the table move. The door opening and this thing came in. This went on over several nights. And when he woke up in the morning, the door was closed, but the table had been moved. It wasn't near the door. Again, we could dismiss it and say, well, he did it. But on one occasion, he was lying there frozen, put the table against the door once again. He noticed the door open and so did the table. But this time, the entity didn't pick him, picked his partner, who was asleep. Now, he was saying to the entity, no, leave her alone. She's innocent in this. And the entity took her and he was powerless to do anything. She was then put back in the bed, and in the morning, she reported that she felt really weird on the side of her head. And he said, well, what happened? What happened? You know, what did you feel? And she said, well, nothing. I didn't feel anything. I just got this pain in the side of my head. And so he just said, okay, take tablets. And then she wanted to get a haircut that day. And so she had a haircut. And she had a haircut. And where she had a haircut, she had a skin fade on one side of her head, which happened to be where her headache was from the pain in her head. And the hairdresser noted, oh, why have you got that scar on her head? And she's like, what scar? Totally oblivious. And the hairdresser took a photo of the hair at the side, showed her first with the mirror, and took a photo of which she had on her phone. She came home, showed her partner, said, look, the hairdresser saw a scar, and look, I've got a photo of it. I don't know what it is, but this is coincidentally where my headache was this morning. Within 2 days, the scar completely disappeared. She couldn't explain it. Had they not had the photo evidence of the scar, they never have known that the headache and the scarring had been there. So they had photo evidence of it. And because she got done first time, it happened on a second occasion. And she's got a prominent, she had some tattoos on her body. And on one part of her tattoo, there was a scar mark that they hadn't noticed. So again, they took photos of it. Again, how did that get there? Right in the middle of the scar. Now, people who have a scar people who have tattoos know, if you get a scar in the middle of your tattoo, that's damaged the tattoo forever. The scar will never heal, the tattoo will be damaged. But they took photos of it, not knowing how this woman got scarring in the middle of her tattoo. It's just no way. However, again, the same thing happened 2 or 3 days later. The scarring disappeared completely, as if the tattoo had been unaffected. And they have got photo evidence of it, of which they've put in a book. Now, I will find it and I will share it alongside the blurb with this show. So that is another case of physical evidence being caught on camera of scar tissue. Now, granted, they could examine the girl again and see if the scars are there. If they're not, then you think, well, how did this happen? So how do we explain that? It is an unusual story. It's only come to light recently, but unfortunately I didn't bring it to the show today. But I will add it to the episode once I dig it up again.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
Interesting one, isn't it? And there's a book, they have released a book about this, and the pictures are included in the book, of which before and after pictures, but the other way around. So the scarring was before, the after pictures show no scarring.
To play devil's advocate,
Yep.
could it be clever makeup? Because obviously you wash makeup off, the scarring has gone, and the tattoo remains untouched.
Well, there's always an element of skepticism on all these, because could this story just be a fabrication for money?
For money. Once you publish a book, it starts getting a bit worrying. Once you publish a book, somebody comes along and tells a story. Even then, you think you get paid for telling your story. So yeah, unfortunately, people are too mercenary. And yeah.
Indeed. It's like that the evidence of the alien autopsy. Do you remember that? There was a film.
That was the 80s, wasn't it? Something.
Yeah, there was a film that was released that showed an alien autopsy. And at the time, everyone was like, where did this come from? Could this be true? You know, was this Area 51 in America? This is where it allegedly was from, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was up in arms thinking, oh, my goodness. And then it was only subsequently later that the person who created the footage admitted that it was all an elaborate hoax.
Yeah, I never fell for that particular one. It didn't look right from the beginning. I would tell you one thing, just as we come to the end of the show, I'm sure you're going to say.
We are at the top of the hour. We need to sum up.
Yeah, just first I want to say, before I do my usual thing, I want to say that if for me, the Pascagoula incident, as it's been called, was the most powerful, most powerful abduction case, as far as I can tell. I don't think powerful is what I'm looking for, but you know what hopefully you know what I mean.
The most believable, because
the most believable. Thank you. There we go. The most believable alien case, because anything in America I tend to dismiss straight away, because there's so many of them in America. You think, I don't know what the hell is going on, but I don't believe it's true. But when you get a primitive, sorry guys, when you get a primitive society, or at least a less developed society, and people are talking there, then you tend to believe it. So there's this one in South Africa that happened to a bunch of school children.
Oh wow, yes.
And they all told the same story.
Yeah.
Now that to me is believable, because you see, I don't do aliens, but you got to say these are school kids. They were quite young. They're not old enough to sit down. They're not teenagers. I think maybe a couple of teenagers, but they're of primary school age and that sort of thing. So I don't know why.
Reporting a similar story, having seen this craft,
independently, interviewed independently, all telling the same story. So that to me is interesting, and it just makes me feel that whatever has happened, whatever is hiding in the shadows, is not foolish for hiding in the shadows. It knows what it's doing. See? Do you understand?
Dr. Isaiah Henry
strikes again. He's so right. He could his foretelling was just so powerful.
Oh, dear Lord. Anyway, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show. But if you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexpected twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tyre, and we are the TNT Talk Show. But unfortunately, as I've said, we have reached the end of the show for another week.